You're listening to Bloomberg Businessweek with Massar and Tim Stenovec on Bloomberg Radio.
One of the things we talk a lot about here at Bloomberg, we've done some great reporting, what goes on with female-founded startups. No secret that they account for only a tiny, tiny portion of the venture capital that's deployed each year. So here's some numbers for you. In 2021, for instance, female founders secured only 2% of venture capital in the U.S. That's according to the research firm PitchBook that follows all of this, Tim.
And that was a year that VC money really flowed. I mean, 2021, those were the boom years. The last 18 months have been a different story entirely. We've got with us right now Tasneem Dohadwala, founding partner of Excelestar Ventures. The VC firm says it invests in, quote, clear disruptive technology. They've got a lot of med tech on there. Really cool stuff and really cool companies that they've invested in. They're also passionate about funding women and minority-led companies. Very pleased to have Tasneem with us this afternoon. So Tasneem, give us an idea of what you've experienced and what you've experienced working as a VC, and also what you've experienced as far as the companies that you funded. Is this is the problem, I kind of know the answer here, but I'm still going to ask this anyway. Is the problem that only 2% of the companies are actually founded by female founders?
No, I mean, I think that it's a systemic problem, and I think that the issue is that it's an everybody problem. It's not just the funds that are focused on investing in women. Everybody needs to work at this problem. So, for example, I know that in VC firms, only 12% of VC firms have women as decision makers, and 65% of VC firms still don't even have a single female partner. And females are noted to be more likely to invest in female-led companies. So I think that itself, we just don't have enough women investors in decision-making roles investing in women. So that's one of the issues.
Tasneem, I want to jump in though for a moment, because I remember Bloomberg did a story, I think it was out during the pandemic, and it was even about female venture capitalists were less inclined to even invest in female-founded ventures. And whether it was pressure within a firm or what have you, it's just like everyone stays away. Help me out. So go ahead, continue with your reasons why, because it's just mind-blowing.
So I think there's a little bit of, this person is an experienced entrepreneur. They've had several exits. Well, if you keep investing in just experienced entrepreneurs that have had prior exits, then you're probably going to keep investing in males, because a lot of female-led companies are first-time entrepreneurs, and you have to be willing to take a risk on a first-time entrepreneur. And it may appear more risky, but I also think some of it has to do with the way we ask questions. There's been a lot of research that says that all investors ask women more sort of risk mitigation type questions, and we ask men growth mindset questions. And so if you're going to change the way you ask questions to your entrepreneurs, you're going to have a different outcome in the way you perceive the company. So for example, at Excelestar, we have a really structured way we do diligence. And so we make sure that we're asking same type of questions to all of our entrepreneurs. We have a quantitative and a qualitative way that we do it. We have a matrix that we fill out and a really robust report. But if you're sort of just flying by the seat of your cuffs, then your own subconscious biases are going to determine what type of questions you're asking. And that changes the outcome of how you perceive the company and the opportunity that it may have.
What do the data show as far as returns? And who's leading companies?
So, I mean, if you think about the data right now, I think there's only been 20 women who have ever led a company to an IPO. And I don't think that's because women don't want to lead companies to IPOs. I think that there's a bias. One of our companies just recently was determining whether they wanted to hire a certain executive in not the CEO role, but in a very senior, important role. And there was some question around whether or not that woman would be able to potentially in a few years be a key management director while leading the company to an IPO. And a few, not just myself, but another male board member spoke up and said, well, we haven't even hired her. Let's get her in the door. Let's see how she does. And we'll make a decision when the time comes, whether or not she'll be suited to be in the role during an IPO. So there are some assumptions that are made before women can even get into the door and make an impact in the company.
So devil's advocate, a little bit.
Sure.
Because I do believe, especially in a capitalistic society, that money talks. And if there's a good business, I don't care if a monkey or a frog is running it, like people are going to invest in it. Is there something else that's missing that look at the creator of Spanx. She created $1 billion business. Like women create, Kardashians, like whatever, go everywhere you want. Like people create $1 billion, Oprah, like people create, women specifically create successful businesses. But I'm wondering, is there something else missing in the trajectory that doesn't allow women to take their ideas and really run with it, or attract, again, the investors that ultimately create a female-run Google, Alphabet, a female-run Tesla? You know what I mean?
Well, I do think that there are I think a lot of females, when you think about entrepreneurs, a lot of them are thinking about what is in their realm of expertise, or what have they experienced in life that drives them to found a certain company, right? So if a female is founding a company based on the female experience and she's pitching it to male venture partners, there is a possibility that isn't going to resonate. And we have to look at the reality that we're faced with. If the decision makers are going to be men, and they're the ones who are, owning the lion's share of investment dollars, then I'm not telling you to change your idea. What I'm suggesting is that people need to be aware, women need to be aware of these biases, and then adjust their pitch such that it may still be a wonderful opportunity based on the female experience, but they need to make sure that they present it in a way that resonates with their male counterpart. Not everything about the female experience will resonate with males, and so you have to perhaps adjust your pitch. Think about how are you doing the market sizing? What are you talking about exits? Do you have enough exit potentials? A lot of times, for example, if in a women's health company, whether we like this or not, in med tech, there aren't that many large med tech players that have sizable women's health divisions.
Right.
And so if you have a women's health med tech company, but you don't have perhaps a very distinct way of exiting to a sizable acquirer that shows an acquisitive nature, then an investor is going to push back on that. And so I go ahead.
No, no. You're saying really smart things. I guess that I'm just thinking, again, I'm playing devil's advocate. Like if Mark Zuckerberg had been Maria Zuckerberg and she had created Facebook, would she have gotten the money to create Facebook, now Meta?
I don't know, because I do see some of our female entrepreneurs, and they are fab. Many of them, some of them have issues just like our male entrepreneurs do. But I just find that females also don't have as much of a network. I don't know if it's the sort of that old boys network that continues to prevail, but they just don't seem to know enough investors. And I also find them that they're not as assertive with their investors and asking for introductions. So only my male for example, when we're sitting in the board and we're sort of, well, I have this company and we're experiencing XYZ, this could be helpful, these are why my thoughts are this, and I'm giving advice to a company. Most of the time, my male CEOs will say, hey, can you introduce me to that CEO so I can learn a little bit more about, what you're talking about, so I can really understand whether it be clinical design or, acquiring customers, something another company did. It's very rare that a female will proactively ask me. It happens.
Oh, that's
but
interesting.
A female will proactively ask me to make introductions for them. I have to offer. Oh. I will go back and look at my Rolodex and say, who can I introduce you to? But they will not proactively ask me as an investor to make introductions for them, which
that's a huge
again,
point.
I have some, but that makes a big difference.
We're going to let the guy in the room wants to say something.
Just want to ask a question.
Quick.
Just want to ask a question. Okay. In just, one phrase, the most exciting area you're investing in right now.
Personalizable, tailored med tech companies that function very much like therapeutics, and their functionality is able to basically shift and conform to the anatomy of our human bodies, and able to really create therapy in a way that only therapeutics have been able to do in the past.
I have to say, I have a niece who's a doctor, and she's a good friend that has a doctor too. And they say it's amazing, like the differences of things that aren't done for women in healthcare.
What do you mean?
Medical devices. Well, I'll talk to you about it.
Well,
but it's just the perspective of and things that are covered by insurance for men versus women,
Right.
and just Matt talked about it with breastfeeding for his wife specifically, and just things that come problems and stuff that there isn't research followed for women. So you make such a valid point, and you think about the inroads. And I also think about if this money isn't going to these companies, women who are starting companies, like you think about if they were allowed to run with it, what kind of businesses they would create, what that would mean for, public companies, market caps, economic momentum, right? Job hiring, like how much we are ignoring at this point.
There is actually a company that I know that would have been a fabulous company, would have changed the trajectory of a disease that we all struggle with as women. And unfortunately, because the acquirer spun off their women's health division, the technology was shelved, even after they paid a lot of money for it, and never made it to market. It's really sad.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Hey, listen, incredible stuff. Come back soon. We'd love to continue this conversation with you. I really feel like this was a very productive one because I feel like it's a topic we've talked about for years, but you really got to some of the core of the problems. Tasneem Dohadwala, she's founding partner at Excelestar Ventures, joining us on Zoom from Boston. Really cool conversation.
Yeah, a lot of cool companies they've invested in: Nova Data, Augmentics, and more. This is Bloomberg.